Hey everyone, I'm Luke and today we're diving down the tube of tunes for one final look at the Manchester Animation Festival. So after a brief break I am back covering and rounding up everything that's left over from the Manchester Animation Festival. Now you might be wondering what the Manchester Animation Festival is. Well, it is an animation festival that happens every year here in Manchester, and of course this year it had to change to being online rather than an in-person event due to everything that is the year 2020. The festival sadly ended just over a week ago now, but there was so much going on, there's still things left to talk about. One of the things I did want to cover was the wide selection of short films that they had on offer. I watched the virtual screenings of Short Films 1, Short Films 2, Student Films, Short Films for Children and Commission Film. I sadly wasn't able to get around to the Short and Student Panorama screening, but there's certainly more than enough to cover in what I actually did watch. Now there was absolutely a boatload of shorts to get through, so I'm just going to highlight some of my favourites and some of the more notable ones I wanted to talk about. In these short film screenings I particularly enjoyed Passers By, Genius Loki and I, Barnaby, all of which I actually had previously seen at the Annecy Animation Online Festival, and I did cover them slightly a bit more there, but it was nice to see them again. Always great to see which films are going around all the different festivals. And ones that I hadn't seen before were Brother Ezekiel, a short film about an African American man and his experience staying at a motel and going to a diner during what looked like the 1960s, and The Last Train, which was talking about what it's like to get the last train of the night when everyone's crowded into one car and you've got people coming home from work and people who are out partying, and I thought it was really nicely done. In these student films I liked 100,000 Acres of Pine. I thought it had a really nice style to it and I really enjoyed the story that they were telling with the little twist at the end. I thought Hijack 139 was incredibly funny and I found it really interesting since it was based on a true story and they were able to tell it in a fun and interesting way. I also really liked Tick, which was about a girl who continuously has to tick off things on her to-do list and takes a bit of a dark turn, but I did find it really interesting to watch. Looking at the commission film screening, the commission films are little short films that have of course been commissioned by someone else. That means the bulk of them end up being adverts or music videos, but there are a few other smaller commission projects that are in the pile. I particularly enjoyed the Kroger ad with the man doing his sort of 80s jazzercise. I like the Being Bold short from the University of Thomond, the way they portrayed all the different subjects that they had on offer as being like these sort of heroic achievements of subjects to learn, and they shown the adventure of learning. I thought it was a really fun advertisement for the university. I liked The Guardians, which was like a Christmas advert and featured little elves running around houses. That was really sweet. I love a good Christmas ad, and it was one I'd never seen before because it wasn't for a UK company, so that was nice. And there was the May Jensen short, which had been part of the Brazen series, and this May Jensen short was incredibly interesting and I'd never learned anything about her before, so I really enjoyed watching this short and learning all about her, and it was incredibly informative but able to educate us in a really entertaining way. I also liked the style of the short. I thought it looked really, really nice. And then there was the Short Films for Children selection. I'm going to be honest, I really always enjoy the Short Films for Children selection. I think sometimes in the normal shorts I sometimes think some of the shorts can just be edgy and mature for the sake of being edgy and mature, and when you can tell they are doing it just for the sake of it, it doesn't necessarily gel very well with me. I also think sometimes those films can be a little overindulgent or a little showy-offy with certain techniques, but then they sometimes lose the narrative that they're trying to tell. Whereas I do find with the Short Films for Children selection, as they are made for children, they are made to be engaging throughout, and so I do think it can be a bit of a nice, and so I do find it can be a nice break from what can be the sometimes heavy nature of just the normal short film selection, which is just a very long-winded way of saying, yeah, I like kids stuff. I really liked Tricked, which was a fun short about a robber and a magician. As a lot of children's stuff does, as a lot of things for children have, it has a moral, and I feel like it was told really well, and of course it was just very funny and engaging. I really like the style of the short. There was a short called Shoom's Odyssey. Now I did quite like this short, but I will say I felt it was a little too long to be in the middle of a shorts programme. The short itself was 22 minutes long, so it felt like the length of a television episode, or maybe a one-off television special type thing, but a full 22-minute film in the midst of lots of 2 to 5 minute films, it really was feeling its length. And I think had I been watching it on television or just on its own, it wouldn't have been too much of a problem. But I do think in the midst of all the other shorts, I definitely felt its length and it was starting to drag in parts. Although I will say, ironically, I preferred the second half of the short, which was where some sort of, it was a short about this baby owl that had just been born and was trying to find some of its siblings and its mother. But as the main character was this little baby owl that didn't speak and was just sort of trying to find its way around in the world, I did think it started to drag. Not much really was happening. It was incredibly beautiful to watch and there was certainly some fun moments, but I don't think the short really came together until the second half, which is when a few human characters were introduced and they had to try and help the baby owl and then hide it from the parents and then hide it from some adults, and it gave the short a little bit more something to happen. It was just, there was something a little bit more going on, and it stopped to drag then, I feel, because the short just had a bit more going about it. It's not that I don't like things with animals and when there isn't dialogue, but just like the first 10 minutes of it, probably amongst all the smaller shorts, it was starting to drag for me until those human characters were introduced. I definitely feel like the film could have been shorter. I'm not sure how many children would have been engaged with it had this been an in-person event. And I do think maybe this is a short where some of the kids maybe would have started to lose interest and rustle about a bit because things weren't constantly changing. Like I said, 22 minutes, it's not terribly long, and maybe if I was watching it individually on its own, it wouldn't have been too much of a problem. But because not an awful lot was happening in the film, I definitely felt its length. Sticks and Stones was this fun little short that you did get a sense was maybe part of a larger series. It was incredibly short but very gag based between these two cavemen characters that are in a museum. I love the short's theme music. Really fun but short. Origami, which was about this big red monster who was trying to do origami and he had these massive hands and he was struggling to do it, and he tried to do it on a much larger scale. It's a really fun but sweet film. I really enjoyed it. I love the visuals of that film. And finally, I really liked Meow or Never, which was the short about this cat in outer space. It was really cute and it was really fun. I loved the style of it and I loved the story. As well as the shorts, I attended some various different events for the festival. I watched a masterclass from Passion Animation Studios where they sort of broke down a load of different projects they've made from throughout the years, which was really interesting. They even mentioned all the Compare the Meerkat adverts, and then they did a Q&A with some of the various directors that had worked on different projects of theirs. Talked a lot about their experiences in working on those projects. They had some animated answers sessions which were like Q&A sessions discussing what they thought the future of the animation industry, particularly the British animation industry, would be in the next 5 years, as well as different ways to pitch different projects, particularly like animated shows, to different networks and to get funding for them, as well as an in the frame discussion, Green for the Screen, which was talking about different ways that animation studios can make their companies more green, more environmentally friendly. I did find all three of these conversations ended up merging into talking about the pandemic and having to work from home, and talking about what they thought the future would be with studios working from home, how long they were thinking it was going to last, how they can be more environmentally friendly when they're at home and they're not in a studio, how pitches are now being virtual instead of in person, and how the benefit can be that they can actually be pre-recorded and not live, maybe slightly less pressure and they can be more polished. You know, all different things, but I did find all these talks did end up covering like the working from home situation that has been going on for the last year, as you would naturally expect. But it was very interesting. Also, they were giving lots of advice to young people that were trying to break into the industry, and how they were saying that unfortunately this year hasn't been the best of years for getting new people in, as it's hard to train people from home. Looking towards making a slightly better effort in the years to come on integrating people from an at-home workstation. Similarly, I also watched the Making It in Manchester talk, which featured various different Manchester animation studios, again talking about their experiences, the different projects that the studios are working on, how they found the last year and in the switch to working from home. Really fun, really interesting. You got to hear some cool things about the latest Spider-Man video game. But it was always really fun and interesting to see the various projects that are going on all across Manchester and seeing what's happening on my doorstep. I also attended the Skwigly Quiz, I have attended every Skwigly Quiz from the Manchester Animation Festival. I've not missed one, and I wasn't going to ruin that streak this year because this year the quiz was virtual. It was a Zoom quiz. I'm sure we've all done many a Zoom quiz in this past year, but this was with people from across the country, all working in or involved in animation in some way. There was some really fun rounds, really inventive things. It's unfortunate they weren't able to recreate the same atmosphere, as we weren't able to like team up and all be in different tables, but I do feel like they were able to sort of recapture the spirit of the Skwigly Quiz in some way, and it was overall a really fun event. There was one round where the game was like 10 minutes and we had to piece together like a costume of an animated character. That was really fun. I went as Miles Morales Spider-Man. I drew my Spider-Verse costume on, and then I went around looking for like some hoodies and some shorts and trainers to sort of look like Miles in the movie. Overall, it was still a really fun quiz. Sadly, there was no prizes, but how were they going to give them to us when they weren't there in person? I'm going to talk a little bit about the user experience, and with it being an online event, what was the user interface like? I actually thought it was really well done. Unlike Annecy, which had developed its own platforms to sort of stream from, Math didn't have its own brand new, specifically built like streaming interface. It actually used this pre-existing service, Eventive, which hosted the festival in like a subsection of their website, and you know what? That was all you needed. And to be quite honest, because it was this pre-existing service that already knows how to run and run quite smoothly, I found that the festival itself ran a lot smoother than the Annecy Festival did earlier this year, because that had this like specifically designed software that probably had never really been trial run before, because it was developed specifically for Annecy, whereas Math was using this tried and tested software, which sure, it wasn't custom built for them, but it certainly doesn't need to be. It did the job, and I feel like it did it very well. Overall, it was very easy to navigate through the festival and find out what was happening. You know, you could just go on the Math Festival website and they had a very nice schedule and rundown of everything that's going to happen and when it's going to happen, because there were certain live events, as well as a full list and selection of all the different shorts and what was going to be in each selection. And on the Eventive site itself, you signed up to the different screenings and to the different films and events that you wanted to attend. You know, you could look at the ones that you'd purchased your ticket to. You know, like you could look in your like basket area to see what you'd signed up for, and under like tickets purchased it said, although if you had a pass you were buying each individual ticket, but that was an option if you didn't want to buy a pass. Overall, it was a really enjoyable, easy experience. You knew exactly what you were doing at each time. I'd say the only real downside was that once you'd started an event, you had 24 hours to watch it before it would time out, as opposed to where in Annecy you had the full 2 weeks to go back and revisit a particular event. Say if you watched a short one day and a few days later you wanted to go back and check out one of the specific shorts, you could do that on Annecy, whereas you couldn't do that here with Math. But I did understand why they done. It's mainly for piracy, I think. It reminds me of like if you rent a film digitally from like iTunes or Amazon, normally they give you 30 days to watch it, but once you hit play you only have 48 hours to watch it as many times as you want. So it reminds me of that. So it's not really a big negative, but I will say it's the one thing that I thought maybe it could have been better. But I suppose if you were watching it at a festival, you would be watching it just in one go and you'd only have the one chance of watching it there. So it does sort of recreate that experience. But I do think sometimes when you're at home, it's nice to have that ability to pick and choose when you can and can't do something. But like I did say, it's literally the tiniest of negatives. It's not that big a deal. But as it's the only one I had, I felt like it was worth mentioning. And yeah, that's pretty much everything to talk about from the Manchester Animation Festival. Overall, I really enjoyed this year's festival. Sure, not as much as I have in previous years when I've been able to go out and attend it in person and really immerse myself in everything. You know, it is a very tiring 3 days, and it's nice to have been able to spread it out a little bit more. I do think I somehow was still able to tire myself out with the festival, but I do feel like that might have been more due to the fact that I was covering it on the channel than just the simply like attending it and watching it. But overall, I couldn't have been more happier with the selection they had on offer. It was a really great online festival to attend, and who knows what 2021 is going to bring. Will it be possible to do the event in person by next November? Hopefully it will, but if they have to do it online again next year, I certainly hope it's going to be just as good as this one. You know, I've said it before, I've attended every Manchester Animation Festival, and since the first year they launched it, I've been with the festival from the start, and I certainly wasn't going to miss out on the chance to attend it from home. So yeah, I was glad that they were able to put something on this year, and it was just something fun and enjoyable to look forward to. Yeah. Really great festival, gets 2 thumbs up from me. Sorry about the lack of videos in the last few weeks, guys. I feel like I maybe did burn myself out a little bit covering the festival. I have still been hard at work on my Spider-Verse video, and I've got a few more special ones coming up before Christmas. Of course, Wonder Woman 1984 is being released internationally this week. I'm going to go seeing it tonight before its debut on HBO Max in the US on Christmas Day, before its debut on HBO Max as well as in theatres in the US on Christmas Day, and there might just be a Wonder Woman 1984 video coming up, not on the actual movie, but it's definitely a Wonder Woman 1984 video, so look out for that in the coming week, as well as my long awaited review of Yabba Dabba Dinosaurs, which will be the final part of my coverage of the Flintstones 60th anniversary. Oh, and I might be doing a Spider-Man video. I feel like I've teased it quite a lot now and I've delayed it, but I really want to make sure that this video is special, so it's going to be coming out to you guys hopefully sometime before Christmas, but I can't guarantee that, I'm afraid. So yeah, but if you want to see all those videos and more, why don't you hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell to be notified the next time I take a dive down the tube of tunes. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like. It really helps out the channel and allows us to be seen by so many more people. Did you go to the Manchester Animation Festival? If you did, let me know what you thought down below. Let me know what your favourite film or short or event was that you attended at the festival. I'd love to talk to some of you about it. Alright everyone, thanks for watching. Cheers. Thanks for watching Tube of Tunes. If you want more from the channel, hit subscribe. If you want to keep up to date with what's going on, follow us on our socials. Hope you liked it. Cheers.